The diplomatic vessel Zenith's Promise hung in the neutral space between the Galactic Council territories, its silver hull reflecting the distant stars. Inside the observation deck, Sevench pressed her violet-scaled hands against the viewport, her compound eyes widening with a mixture of fascination and fear. "The human arrives in 20 standard minutes," announced Commander Vex through the intercom, his voice crackling with the universal translator static. "All personnel, maintain protocol distance of no less than 15 meters. Sevench exchanged glances with her research partner Samith, whose crystalline form shimmered with nervous energy. They had both studied humanity from a farther species that had emerged from a death world called Earth, whose very existence defied the logical parameters of galactic civilization. "Are the containment fields ready?" Samith asked, his voice resonating like wind chimes in a storm. His translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent worry. "Triple-checked," Sevench confirmed, though her mandibles clicked anxiously. "The Forbidden Three are secure in their separate chambers. The human will see them through reinforced viewing ports only." The Forbidden Three, even speaking their names, was considered taboo among most species. The Varkasia creature of pure nightmare, with 6 rows of serrated teeth and venom that could dissolve titanium. The Queller, a psychic parasite that could hijack neural pathways and turn sentient beings into puppets. And the Dreadmore beast, so large and ferocious that entire colonies had been evacuated at mere rumors of their presence. These 3 specimens had been captured at enormous cost, intended as a demonstration to the Galactic Council of the universe's most dangerous life. The human ambassador, Samith had learned, was being brought here as a testaway to gauge whether humanity truly belonged among the civilized species, or whether they were simply another predator to be contained. The airlock hissed open. Samith's entire body went rigid, his crystalline structure vibrating at a frequency that betrayed his terror. Sevench's auxiliary breathing tubes constricted. They had seen images of humans, of course, but nothing prepared them for the reality. The human was tall, nearly 2 meters, with skin the color of bronze and dark hair pulled back in a practical manner. She wore a simple gray uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps, but it was her eyes that held Sevench transfixed, forward-facing, predatory, the eyes of a hunter that had evolved to track and kill. "Ambassador Michaels," Commander Dex's voice came through, strained. "Welcome aboard. I am Commander. Just call me Sarah," the human said, her lips curving into what their cultural database identified as a smile. It exposed her teeth, flat frontal incisors flanked by pointed canines. Omnivore dentition. Adaptable, dangerous. Sevench forced herself to step forward, maintaining the required distance. "Ambassador Sarah, I am xenobiologist Sevench, and this is my colleague Samith. We will be conducting today's demonstration of a..." Roar shook the entire deck. The Varkish had detected the human's presence. Its 6-legged form crashed against the containment field, mandibles snapping, its armored carapace scraping against the energy barrier with sounds that made Samith's crystalline form crack slightly from sympathetic resonance. Every being on the deck stepped back. Every being except Sarah. The human walked forward, directly toward the viewing port. Sevench's voice caught in her throat, a warning dying before it could form. The Varkesh was the creature that had decimated the Krell expedition, leaving nothing but scattered chitin and trauma recordings. Sarah placed her hand against the transparent aluminum, inches from where the Varkesh's massive head pressed against the barrier. "Hey there, beautiful," Sarah said softly. The Varkish's roar died. Its multiple eyes, each the size of Sevench's head, focused on the human. Then, impossibly, the creature's aggression faded. It made a sound, a low, rumbling purr that no one in the known database had ever recorded from a Varkesh. "Impossible," Samith whispered, his voice barely a harmonic. But Sarah was already moving to the second chamber, where the Queller writhed in its containment, mass of tentacles and psychic malevolence that had broken the minds of 12 research subjects during its capture. Its mental projections alone had caused Sevench nightmares for weeks. The human approached without hesitation. The Queller's tentacles pressed against the energy field, reaching toward Sarah. Every being in the room felt the psychic pressure, the weight of an alien intelligence trying to penetrate, to dominate, to control. Sarah smiled wider. "I know you're trying to get in my head," she said conversationally. "That tickles." Then she did something that made Sevench's blood run cold. Sarah placed her hand against the barrier, directly where one of the Queller's appendages touched from the other side. The creature's attempts at mental invasion intensified. Samith could feel it, a hurricane of psychic force that should have reduced the human to a drooling shell. Instead, Sarah began to hum a simple melody, something she called a lullaby in her native language. The Queller's frantic movements slowed, its tentacles relaxed. Against all known xenobiological possibility, the creature that had never shown anything but hostility began to sway gently to the human's song. "This isn't real," Sevench said, her voice breaking. "This cannot be happening." But Sarah was already at the third chamber, the Dreadmore, 7 meters of armored rage, with jaws that could crush starship bulkheads. It had killed 3 of its handlers during transport. The standing order was to never approach closer than 30 meters. Even with full containment active, the massive creature's eyes opened as Sarah approached, eyes that glowed with predatory intelligence. It rose to its full height, filling the entire chamber, and released a roar that made the deck plates vibrate. Sarah didn't flinch. She walked up to the containment field and knocked on it gently, as one might knock on a door. "Hey, big guy," she said. "I see you." The Dreadma's roar trailed off into confusion. It tilted its massive head, regarding the tiny human with what could only be described as curiosity. Then Sarah did something that would be replayed in Galactic Council chambers for years to come. She smiled, that terrifying display of teeth, and reached up to scratch at the air, her fingers moving in a repetitive motion that seemed to hold no significance. The Dreadmore lowered its head, pressed it against the containment field, exactly where Sarah's hand moved, and began to make a sound that Sevench's translator couldn't process at first. Before finally identifying it, Contentment. Commander Vex's voice came through the intercom. "Shaking Ambassador, how are you? What are you?" Sarah turned to face Sevench and Samuth, her hand still moving in that scratching motion against the barrier. The Dreadmore leaning into it like an oversized pet. "You wanted to know if humans belong in the Galactic Council," Sarah said simply. "Here's what you need to understand. These aren't monsters. They're just scared, aggressive animals far from home, kept in cages by beings they don't understand. Where I come from, we have creatures just as dangerous. We call some of them dogs, cats, horses. We domesticated them, loved them, to made them family." She looked back at the Dreadmore, genuine affection in her eyes. "Everything alive responds to kindness, to patience, to understanding. You call these three forbidden because you approach them with fear. But fear creates fear. Respect creates respect." Samuth's crystalline form had stopped vibrating. Slowly, carefully, he approached the viewing port of the Queller's chamber. The creature's tentacles moved toward him, but without aggression, now with curiosity. Sevench felt something shift in her understanding of the universe. These humans, from their impossible death world, had learned something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten, that even the most fearsome creatures were still just creatures, seeking connection in a vast and lonely cosmos. As the Zenith's promise prepared to return to Council space, Sevench watched Sarah one last time with each of the Forbidden Three. The human was humming again, and impossibly, all three creatures were calm, almost peaceful. "I'll be recommending full Council membership for humanity," Commander Vex announced quietly beside her. Sevench clicked her mandibles in agreement. "As will I. Any species that can turn terror into trust deserves to walk among the stars." In her chamber, Sarah smiled and rubbed the head of a creature that had once destroyed an entire battle fleet, and the Dreadmore purred like thunder.